we're happy to have you candidates here tonight, and this has always been a good event. So before we get started, if you would like to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to... Thank you. So before we get started, I'd like to just offer some thanks to some people that made this happen. First of all, Sherry Turney and the staff of the Raymore Chamber of Commerce, Eric Berlin and his staff here in the city, and what a great partnership we have with the city staff, and we're thrilled to work closely with you. Thanks again. To the Journal and the Northcast Herald for working together to come up with the questions that we have for our panelists. To Affordable Elegance, a great caterer here in town, for the refreshments. And by the way, the little plug for them, if you have not eaten at their event space, I think it's worthwhile. You should absolutely take a time to go over there and enjoy their food. A housekeeping note, if everybody can make sure their phones are turned to silent or vibrate, out of respect for the candidates, that'd be great. Well, are we ready to get started? Let's see here. I'm going to introduce you to our candidates for City Council that are here. First of all, let's start with Derek Moorhead. Derek Moorhead is a current Raymore City Council member for Ward 2. He previously served on the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission for 2 years. Mr. Moorhead is a corporate and tax attorney with his practice in Raymore. In addition, he is a lecturer at the Washburn University School of Law. Mr. Moorhead first moved to Silver Lake in 1973, and his children attend the same Ray-Pec schools he did. Derek Moorhead. Next we have Jay Holman. Jay Holman grew up in Northwest Missouri and graduated from high school in Bethany, Missouri. He attended Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville, earning his degree in political science. Upon graduation, Mr. Holman enlisted in the U.S. Air Force and completed 4 years of service in the intelligence field. He moved to the Kansas City area in 1990 and began a law enforcement career with the Belton Police Department, achieving the rank of sergeant before accepting a position with Union Pacific Railroad, which is his current employer. Mr. Holman and his wife Lisa have been married for 23 years, and they have 2 children, Ethan, 13, and Evan, 10. Jay Holman. Next, we have Sanya Abdelgawad. Sanya Abdelgawad has served in the City Council for the past 2 years as the Ward 4 representative and served for a year on the Parks and Recreation Commission before that. She holds 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree in education, is a certified teacher, and works for the Belton School District as a teacher and parent educator. Ms. Abdelgawad is the mother of 2 elementary-age children and volunteers as a PTA board member in the Raymore Peculiar Schools. Ms. Abdelgawad also volunteers with the Ray-Pec Public School Foundation's CAN program and is a member of the Ray-Pec Relay for Life Planning Committee. Sanya Abdelgawad. And finally, Robert Bob West. Bob West is a 14-year resident of Raymore's 4th Ward. He has been married to his wife Margaret for 31 years and is proud of his 3 children, Nicholas, Sierra, and Alyssa. Mr. West is a United States Air Force veteran, retired out of Whiteman Air Force Base. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Law Enforcement degree from Northeast University and a Master's of Arts in Criminal Justice degree from Anna Maria College. Mr. West is currently business owner and vice president of KCPL Security, a Missouri and state licensed private investigative firm. He is a member of the Sunrise Optimist Club. Bob West. Thank you all for being here. So we have 4 questions, and we're going to alternate the order in which we ask, where we start. You have 2.5 minutes. Tom Circo is our timer, and he'll let you know when you're approaching 30 seconds, if that's okay. If we can keep our time, if we can keep to that 2.5 minutes, that'll help this kind of go in an orderly fashion. So, question number 1, we're going to start with Derek Moorhead and work this way, if that's all right. Question 1, Raymore is currently experiencing growth at a very rapid rate. What are some of the biggest challenges for Raymore during this time, And what can the council do to address these issues? Mr. Moorhead.
Growing up in the area here, I got to see other communities, namely, most specifically Belton, go through growth spurts. One of the things over the last year I've witnessed on the council is as we are addressing issues of growth, we have to be mindful that we're responsible in managing that growth to make sure that we're not just meeting short-term needs, but that we're also being able to plan this for long-term success as well. One of the key growth areas that we're actually developing right now is around the North Cass Parkway. With the new interchange there, and it's important that we make sure that we have good solid development there, that there's good connectivity both north and south rather than east and west. We enjoy a main artery here, a 58 highway here, and it's important as we develop down there that we don't create a division here in Raymore, and that we have a good merger of both commerce, industry, and residential. So that's one of the things that we've tried to do over this last year is be very fiscally conservative, especially we've had several bond refunds that have yielded very well for the city to be fiscally strong, and we've tried to just exercise good prudence in our budget development. I'm not going to take credit for that, though. Our city staff is excellent at that, and we have good team there with that, and we really, with the 8 members that we've had on the council, we've had a very good council this year, and we communicate well, and we're approaching our growth in the same fashion. We want to be solid, take good solid steps forward, but be respectful in the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Moorhead. Mr. Holman.
I was so intrigued by his eloquence. Would you mind repeating the question for me?
Certainly.
Please?
Raymore is currently experiencing growth at a very rapid rate. What are some of the biggest challenges for Raymore during this time, and what can the council do to address these issues?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing is with any growth spurt is going to be infrastructure needs. Obviously, there's going to be an increase. When you talk about growth in general, you're generally talking about economic growth, followed by residential growth, and then transportation, traffic, and so forth. So making sure that we have the basic infrastructure that we all take for granted in place, good roads, good sidewalks, sewer systems, and that kind of thing. And it's not, unfortunately, enough just to keep what we have maintained well. A lot of times we're going to have to look at widening things. I can remember the time when a 58 highway was nothing more than a 2-lane road. I've been here for about 20 years. I actually spent about 8 hours directing traffic on overtime when we were opening 58 from 2-lane to 4-lane, and literally was covered in a layer of dust, and it just takes people a little while to get used to that. But that's the kind of thing that must come with growth, and I think we have to manage it properly, and we do that, I think, with a pretty good system that we have in place now with especially planning and zoning, reviewing that kind of stuff, and the growth management plan is a key factor in preparing for those kind of things as we go forward. I think the city's poised for the next section of growth. I think it is going to come off of the new interchange down to the south, and I think it's going to come, I don't think it's going to come in little bits and pieces like we'd like to manage it. I think it's going to come all at once like we saw in the early 2000s, and I think that's going to be our next boom, if you will, for this area, our gold rush. And like I said, I think the key thing is just making sure that we utilize our processes to the best, take into account the needs and comments of our citizens and how it's going to affect them, and just preparing for it as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you. Agreeing with what Mr. Moorhead and Mr. Holman said, the number one thing that we have to think about as a city is the infrastructure, making sure that we have the streets ready for businesses to come in, sidewalks so that people can get there if they're not using the street. We are lucky to have an excellent growth management plan, so we have a plan for when the growth comes to the city, and just kind of sticking to that plan, but also taking some time to reevaluate that plan and be sure that it's going to work the way we hoped it would. One of the biggest things I think that the city council can do to help with the economic growth in the city is just by sending a message of responsibility to anyone who's interested in coming to our city, maintaining a positive and stable and professional body, so that people who are looking to come are impressed with what they see from the city council, as well as maintaining that stability so that business owners in the city know what to expect from us. They don't want to come somewhere where they're not sure which way the council's going to go on an issue. They want us to have policies and follow those policies and have some stability there. That's the number one thing I think the council can do. I also hear from people that they want to see growth in Raymore, but we also want to maintain our small town feel. So we need to be cognizant of having business areas and residential areas so that we still feel like a small town, but we don't have to drive out of town necessarily for our shopping or to go out to eat or things like that. So just thinking about where we put things. And as I said before, we have a great growth management plan, so that's all in place. We just have to follow the plan and be a stable body for business owners.
Thank you, Ms. Abdelgawad. And finally, Mr. West.
Well, I can certainly agree with the three of them. And if you could handle the word infrastructure and city services again, I think that's one of the areas that Raymore can be most proud of in its growth. I mean, it's certainly handled it well, and they've done, an outstanding job managing that. That's one of the things that interested me and my family and brought my business to Raymore 14 years ago. I'm interested in helping the process move along, and that's what I'm here for.
Thank you, Mr. West. And we're going to start with you this time and then move this direction towards Mr. Moorhead. Question 2. Raymore has had quite a string of success with economic development on the commercial side lately. What types of businesses and employers would you like to see come to Raymore, and how would you attract them? Mr. West.
I believe manufacturing would really help Raymore. When you look around at some of the surrounding cities and some of the manufacturing they have, Raymore is somewhat woefully underserved by that, but with the proper tax incentives and labor force, I think that can certainly be attracted, along with the quality of life that we enjoy in Raymore. That's one of the reasons we are where we are today and experience that kind of growth.
Thank you, Mr. West. Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you. Unfortunately, the city council doesn't get to choose what businesses come to Raymore. I've had a lot of people talk to me during my time on the city council that saying, well, why don't we get this business, or why don't we get this business, or why are you letting this business come? And it's not up to the city council what businesses come to Raymore or what businesses don't come to Raymore. But as far as answering the question, what businesses would I like to come to Raymore? I would love to see some more restaurants. That's probably the number one thing that I hear people say, bring us some restaurants so that we have a nice place to go and sit down and eat. People that live in Raymore also want to be able to spend our money here. We have some great businesses here where we can go and spend our money, but just kind of some more outside of the box, some things that we don't already have. And how to attract those businesses, as I said in the previous question, I think the number one thing that the council can do to attract those businesses is just to be a professional, stable, non-political body. By showing that professionalism, by showing that we are stable, I think it attracts business owners to look in Raymore and want to be here. We also have a great city staff, and so I know our city staff works hard to attract businesses, to talk to them. Gene Thompson won an award just recently for his excellent job he does with economic development here in Raymore, and so having Gene working with businesses and thinking about their concerns, trying to find something that will work for both parties. We don't want to bring someone here who's not going to be happy here. So Gene does a great job working with businesses.
Thank you. Mr. Holman.
Again, I've got to agree with their comments. I think it would certainly be nice if we could get at least a light industrial manufacturing base here, because then, it would provide a job base for us, whereas opposed to a lot of our people right now travel outside the city, of course, for their work. But food is where my heart is, because I like to eat. And so, and my kids are going to yell at me if they want a Cracker Barrel here in town. They don't like driving to Independence. I'd love to have a Cracker Barrel. One of my favorite steakhouse of all time is at Saltgrass restaurant. It's based out of Texas. The closest one is Norman, Oklahoma. So I've got to get with Gene Thompson and say, whatever we got to do to attract those people here, because I don't get to go down there and eat very often. If you've ever been to one and you like steak, you'll love that place. What I'd like to see, I think we've got a good mix of business right now across the board. Maybe looking at, obviously restaurants are very popular with people. I think Sonia hit that right on the head. Maybe moving into some of the different types of food that we don't have, I think is certainly going to be popular, and some of the retail that we don't, certain sectors of retail that we don't have right now. As far as attracting those kind of things, like I said, I think Gene's certainly been on point with that, as evidenced by the award that was just recently given to him. And we have a lot to offer as a city. I mean, we're one of the fastest growing cities in the state, a big population base that keeps growing, good solid schools. These are all things that businesses look for when they're looking to expand their business and locate elsewhere. I think that we continue to market our city as much as we possibly can, let them know who we are. One of the things that I think we need to probably look at more in the abstract is how do we physically define where Raymore is? Because if you talk to people outside this area, they go, "You're from Belton." Well, I'm from Raymore. Well, it's all the same, right? I mean, because they can't tell when they drive through where one ends and one begins. Sure. So maybe looking at some physical differences. I'm not sure exactly what that entails, but I think that would kind of help. Obviously, Belton has, they kind of led the boom in both the retail and the restaurant industry. We kind of followed, and we're starting to catch up a little bit, and I think that's going to be good for us on the horizon. But thank you for that question, because my kids are going to love that when they hear it.
Okay, I'm actually going to create the first controversy of the night by disagreeing with some of the other members of the council. Over the last year, I have had a wonderful opportunity to get to work with Gene Thompson, and he is one of the biggest keys and instruments of our success with our economic development here in Raymore. But the role as a council member that we have is we're here to help stock his resources when he goes out and deals with these businesses to help draw them in. I myself feel that we have plenty of convenience type of businesses, especially in the food realm. I'd like to, now sit-down restaurants, some of the finer dining maybe, but I think we have our fair share. What we need to do is now transition more into, one, to create jobs, but more of industrial or manufacturing. We've had a number of businesses looking at our North Cass corridor, and it's really exciting, but one of the things we as a city can do is, one, provide a good, strong, consistent fiscal government, and provide the kind of utility and infrastructure that these businesses need. Because one of the first things that I really paid attention to was when companies and businesses would come in, the first thing they would ask is, I would think of people and how many customers. No, they were talking about utilities. What kind of infrastructure can they have for their business? And that's something we can provide to make sure that we have good utilities for them and good roads and services of that sort. So we do play some role, but again, our staff is who really leads the charge. But I would like to see more in economic development, more in the commercial industrial realm.
Thank you, Mr. Moorhead. So for question 3, I think we'll start with Mr. Holman, and we're going to go around this way. All right. Question 3, what are your feelings on a community center, and how would you go about the process of building one?
Well, that's kind of a current topic, because I've been on the Parks Board for the past 2 years, and it's been kind of a subject that's pretty close to my heart. I think that I believe that there certainly is a demand and a need for one. Obviously, I don't think we want to replicate what Belton has. We would only draw the customer base away from them. We would split the customer base, and both cities would suffer. We need to offer something unique. But if you consider right now, all of our offerings through the Parks and Rec Department that require indoor use of space, we're completely dependent on the Ray-Pec School District for everything that we do. And should they suffer a setback or need that space, our offerings are certainly going to suffer because of that. And also, with the growth of the city and the growth of city services, we no longer have the meeting room available to us downstairs. The police department needed that, justifiably needed that for their space, and they took it over. And so we really don't have a space that's kind of a community-oriented facility where we could get together groups, large groups or small. And so I think it is very important. We've been working, if you read the paper or follow city business, we have been working on this. We're in the process of doing a feasibility study, and we just had a meeting week ago, 2 weeks ago, to kind of develop the survey that we're going to send out to a percentage of our citizens to determine exactly what they want to see in that facility, and maybe what they think we should do as far as paying for it. Should it be done via general obligation bonds solely? Should it be done, should we build a little bit larger facility and do general obligation bonds and maybe a small tax increase? So there's a lot of data that we've got to collect. I think it's an important project. I think it's going to set us apart, and I think it's going to be a key jewel piece here in the city when it's done. And I hope to see it before too awful long. It takes a while to do those things, but I'm very, very much in favor of that, and I'm really interested in getting the feedback from our citizens as to what they think about it and what they want in it.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Mr. Moorhead.
2 years ago, when I was on planning and zoning, I participated in the growth management plan development, and one of the key meeting areas involving that was dealing with this issue, and that's where a lot of kind of the new momentum toward this was really kind of generated. And the key concept that was developed was the word connectivity. One of the things that we were looking for were ways that citizens could come together more. We don't, yes, you bump into your friends at Price Chopper or McDonald's or whatever, but we wanted to bring groups closer together because we found a large voice saying, what play is going on at the high school, or what's the scout, what scout troops do we have, things like that. And this last summer we had an issue on the council where we wanted to have a council and staff retreat. And we struggled, because we wanted to be outside of this room, we struggled for a meeting room just for the council. And we did end up meeting up at Foxwood, but the idea is we're looking for ways to create, and the phrase that we kind of push toward is a civic center, because we really want to get away from the Blue Wellness Center in Belton. We respect that, we're appreciative that we can go over and get their local rates, but we're really looking for something for people to get together, for scout groups, wedding receptions, for the Ray-Pec High School to bring a production down here for people that they could see, things that you could put on a art show or a craft show or things to draw the community together regardless of interest, and that it not always have to be athletic. And so connectivity was really the big key for that, and there is a very good push for that, and I'm glad that the park board and the council are working really almost harmonious at this point. We had a very good meeting the other night, but the idea is we're pushing toward getting people together, not so much always for athletics, but for a wide variety of reasons. And so people will want to stay in Raymore, where it would be fun on a Friday night to not have to always go, okay, what town and what traffic are we going to fight? Hey, I didn't know something local was going on. And to allow information. If you want to know what's going on in your community, instead of checking respective Facebook pages, there's a local centralized place in town we can get together, and that's our goal.
Thank you, Mr. Moorhead. Mr. West.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of the community center. As far as how to pay for it, therein lies the key. I would be much more in favor of a vote from the citizenry to decide just the size, scale, and scope of that civic center. It would be easy to get fiscally irresponsible with grand ideas and plans, but I think there's certainly a place for it, and a matter of how to get there is the key.
Thank you, Mr. West. Finally, Ms. Abdel-Gawad.
Thank you. As my feelings on a community center, we've lived in Raymore for almost 10 years now, and since we moved to Raymore, I've heard people saying, we're going to get a community center, but when? When are we going to get the community center? It's coming, it's coming. When is it coming? And so I'm confident that people in Raymore want a community center. And what we've been working on since I've been on the Parks Board is trying to figure out just what that means. There are a lot of people in Raymore and a lot of different ideas about what that should look like. As far as our group, the Parks Board and the council, we've pretty much, as these two men said, agreed, we don't want to rebuild High Blue Wellness. That wouldn't be good for the city of Raymore to spend money on. It wouldn't be good for High Blue Wellness in Belton to just replicate their center. So the key is, what do we build that's going to make it different? Do we need that? And so we're, as part of the process, we're starting now with the feasibility study. We just started working on the questions that will be sent out for a survey of the citizens. And that's going to tell us what people want. It's going to tell us, you know, how we're going to pay for that. Are people willing to support it tax-wise? Is it something we just want the people who are using it to pay for? You know, what are citizens ready for and willing to pay for? What do they want? But in a lot of those discussions, as Mr. Moorhead said, we're really looking at a community center, but we're afraid to call it a community center because when you say that around here, people think about the one in Belton. So calling it a civic center, we want something that's going to bring people in the community together. We want a place for people to get together and have meetings. We want a place where people can just come and hang out. I know that there's a group in town and in Peculiar that's looking for a place for teens to hang out, where they can just go and have a safe place to hang out with their friends and have some fun. And so this community center or civic center might be the place that we can provide that for our communities.
Thank you very much. Now the fourth question, I bet you're wondering where we're going to start. Right here, Sania Abdelgawad, and we'll go around this way and finish with Mr. Holman. Question 4, if elected, how will you personally communicate and be accountable with your constituents so that you will act with their best interest in mind on the council? Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent question. That's probably the thing as a council member that a lot of us struggle with on a daily basis. It's hard to vote what people want when you don't have open lines of communication. One of the great things that we have as council members, we all have a city email address. So it's our first initial, last name @raymore.com. We're always answering emails from people all over the city, especially in our ward, on our email. If you look at any of my information, it has my phone number on it. My business cards, my campaign information has my phone number on it. I welcome anyone to call me anytime. I am a full-time teacher, so if you call me during the day, you'll get my voicemail. I just can't answer the phone, but I'm usually very prompt in calling people back. Also, one of the things I've done as a council member is I have a Facebook page. It's really long, so I have to actually see it to say what it is. It's City Council Updates, Raymore City Council Ward 4 Updates by Sania Abdelgawad. If you search my name on Facebook, you'll find it. And so periodically I put information about things that are happening in the city. I'm welcome to messages from people, comments from people on my Facebook page. So that's how I try to keep in contact with people: email, phone, and Facebook. And of course, our meetings every Monday are public meetings. We welcome people to come and learn about what's going on. Most council members are available to talk to you before and after the meeting. You're welcome to sign up and speak at the beginning of the meeting or just approach at the end of the meeting. There are many, many ways to communicate, as well as the awesome communication through the city. The city has has Facebook. The city has an email addresses. The city has a website. Also on the city, there's a way you can put in a complaint or a concern, and it gets logged and replied to very promptly. So the city has it built in for us, and then I have several other ways myself.
Thank you very much. Mr. West.
As a small business owner, I deal with clients and customers all the time. I have no problem communicating with staff, constituents, or anybody. I don't really see foresee a problem in that. But as far as email and this current batch of social media, I'm available and certainly would make myself available to groups, organizations, anybody that would indeed want to discuss the matter. And as Sonia said, there's the city council enjoys the privilege of having its own email, so I wouldn't anticipate a problem.
Thank you, Mr. West. Mr. Moorhead.
This is a great issue for me, bad for my wife, and I'll explain. This is the third time in 15 months I've had to run for this position, so I actually have I have no choice. I have to like to talk to people, and as an attorney, you can imagine limiting me to 2.5 minutes is very difficult. But the idea here is, you know, a year ago when I was here, one of the things I said was, if somebody contacted me, I would go to their front door, and I actually did that the entire year. And in fact, I kind of scared some people. We had an issue on this. We had an issue regarding sidewalk installation over the summer, and someone sent me an email. And that afternoon, I went over to their house, knocked on their door, and at first they were kind of intimidated because they were like, "We have never had a council member ever come to our door and respect us that way." And even though I don't know if they really felt this issue got resolved totally, the idea though was, they said at the end, they said, "Thank you so much for at least respecting to hear us out and understand our position." And that's something I've enjoyed. That's something I'll continue to enjoy. Now, about my wife, she hates because when we go to Price Chopper, I can't get past the registers because people will catch me and have questions. And then she'll literally finish the rounds of the grocery store and I'm still there. So now she just gives me the list and sends me by myself, and she said, "Take as long as you need." But, you know, the idea for me is, it's important to be more active, because getting out and approaching people, not waiting to passively get contact, and going out and asking people how they feel, that greater exposure gets great information. And I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know people, even outside of Ward 2. I mean, you know, we each represent our individual wards directly, but we are representing all of Raymore as well. So, you know, I have people from other wards where I'll say, "Please contact your ward representative, but I'm not going to ignore you. And if you have an issue, please talk to me about it, and I'll be happy to pass that along as well." And I do try to talk about issues that we're confronted with, because we would like a lot, as Councilmember Adelgawad said, we love when people come to the council meetings. We love when people talk to us afterwards. So I want communication. I value it. I enjoy it. It's made this job fun, and I hope we continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moorhead. And finally, Mr. Holman.
I was hoping that the order would go different, because I haven't even got a chance to tell Derek yet, but I got to say, I'm going to quote him as a source because I don't want to get sued for plagiarism, but I'm going to adopt his same pledge. I'm a type of person that it's nice to have the modern conveniences of email and cell phone and that kind of thing, but I personally feel much more of a connection, I think most people do, when you talk to them face to face. And so I'm going to make that same pledge. Anybody that contacts me with an issue that is willing to, I don't know if I'm as bold as him, I don't know if I'm going to walk up to a house unannounced, but certainly make that offer. I would like to come and see you in person about this, even if it's, you know, meet at a local fast food restaurant or at your house, whatever. But 5 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever you need, we'll make it work with the schedule. I think that's a great way of approaching things, and kudos to you on that. And when I read it in the paper, I was like, okay, I'm going to steal that one from him, but I got to give him credit. I also I have a little bit of advantage from the Ward 3 perspective, in that I have probably less neighborhoods, the largest being Foxwood Springs by far. And I've been over to them once. They interviewed me because they knew that I was running. They're a fun group. I asked if I could come back and be on their closed circuit TV, and I think they're going to grant that wish at least once, and we'll see how it goes after that. But that's one good way for me to connect with the big sector of Ward 3, is to go visit them, and they do their weekly television broadcast, and they ask all kinds. They're a fun group. They really are. They ask all kinds of fun questions. But I like to try and get out and do a few neighborhood walks too, and just kind of meet people out when the weather's a little bit better than it is tonight. And like I said, I'm going to steal and adopt your idea. Thank you. That's a great one. That's my plan.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. And we finished with the questions, but I'll give each of you one minute wrap up, if you'd like, starting with Mr. Moorhead and finishing with Mr. West.
You know, one of the things when I got the questionnaire for this, I had to say that I don't have an opponent this election, but that doesn't mean that I still don't have to earn everyone's vote. I mean, the idea here is every time I am on this dais, every issue that I have to confront, I have to be responsible to each of the members here of the entire city. And I've really enjoyed this last year. It was an abbreviated term because I was finishing out a predecessor's term. Now this will be my first 2-year term. And I've enjoyed every minute. I love spending the time with the other council members. I've really valued the fact that this last year we've had a very good collective council, and we've gotten a lot accomplished, And, you know, I'm going to embarrass the mayor. He's here, and he's a role model with that. And, you know, we've had a really good time, addressed a lot of wonderful issues. It's wonderful to see things develop. I wasn't a part of the development of Sam's Club, but boy, it was great to be up there when they opened and to see the energy and the community come together on that, and each ribbon cutting, and to see all the wonderful things our chamber does to generate not only support for businesses, but interest within the community. I'm already starting to go out to the garage sales and meeting people in the community. And again, I mentioned that connectivity. That's what's so important here. We like our town. You know, when we had our growth management plan development, they had shirts that said, "Please don't make us leave our town." Because, you know, we are a bedroom community, but we love this bedroom community, and a lot of other communities in the area are looking to us as role models. You know, one of the issues that we're talking about, and I'm being told to stop. As you can see, I can keep talking.
Thank you, Mr. Moorhead. Mr. Holman.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to come out and just talk to people tonight. I'm not I was in planning and zoning for about 5.5 years and on Parks Board a little over the past 2. Never seen a group this big, even when we had a contentious issue. So it's nice to see people, you know, get out and get a chance to hear what they have to say and that kind of stuff. But Derek hit, you know, most of the points on the head. Basically, I'm in the same scenario. I don't have an opponent. I feel like I still need to earn the vote, and you know, I'm going to give you a 2-year commitment and give you the best that I can. If that's not acceptable, then in 2 years, maybe I don't run, or maybe you vote me out, and that's how our system works, and you can't ask for any more than that. I've been preparing for it, obviously. Like I said, the past 7 years, I got to see, you know, the pre-process for infrastructure planning and growth building through planning and zoning. A lot of people look at that and go, "Oh gosh, that's boring," but that's where all the details are made. And then the last 2 with the Parks Board has been, you know, the other side, the fun stuff. Gee, when are we going to put the new playground in? So that's basically where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you. I've been honored to serve Ward 4 for the last 2 years, and I'm looking forward to continuing to learn more about the ins and outs of the city. My first year on the city council, I was, almost overwhelmed with all of the things that there are to learn. And even after serving for 2 years, almost every month something new comes up that I have to do some research and learn about so that I can be sure that I'm making the best decision for Raymore. I'm looking forward to working with our excellent city staff, helping Raymore grow and maintain what we have. Looking forward to working with business owners and residents in Raymore again for the next 2 years. Right now there are a lot of exciting things happening in Raymore. We're working on our civic center. I've been working on the roundabout committee, working on a welcoming feature to go in the middle of our new roundabout. So I'm really excited. We're going to reveal that in just a couple of weeks. Really excited about that. We've been talking about starting some kind of maybe arts commission, arts council, something like that. So I promise to do my best to represent the citizens of Raymore and Ward 4 for the next 2 years.
Thank you. Mr. West.
Well, I tend to present myself as the newcomer, and as that, I'm looking forward to serving Ward 4 as best I can. My background, education, and experience lends itself to problem solving and working with groups of people, getting them together to advance the cause toward community togetherness and fixing problems. So that's kind of where I bring my flag. So I'm here.
Thank you very much, each of you, and we're going to take a 15-minute break. A hand for our candidates. Tonight, and so this is going to be school board candidates. We know the school board is so important as it relates to the quality of our school system, and we want to thank you all for taking time to be here tonight. So just like with the city council candidates, we're going to read your bios, and then we've got 4 questions with 2.5 minutes and a hook later. So we'll start with Barbara Boucher. Barbara Boucher has been a teacher for 28 years and retired last July from the Raymore Peculiar School District where she was a reading specialist. She earned a Bachelor of Science degree in education, a master's degree in education, and an education specialist degree from the University of Missouri. Ms. Boucher has resided in this district for 28 years. She is a member of the Peculiar Chamber of Commerce, the Cass County Historical Society, and is a local vice president for the Missouri Retired Teachers Association. Ms. Boucher has held the office of school board member for the Raymore Peculiar School District in the past and currently serves on the Cass County Library Board. Barbara Boucher. Please tell me how to pronounce your name. I don't want to butcher it. Howdyshell, just like it looks. I'm sorry about that. Melinda Howdyshell and her husband Kurt are celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. Their daughter Maya is a freshman at Raymore Peculiar High School, and their son Corbin is a 5th grader at Eagle Glen. She received her BS in psychology and a minor in business at Missouri State. She is co-owner with her husband in their CPA firm and is responsible for the administrative functions. Ms. Howdyshell volunteers at St. Luke's Hospital's Pathways to Purpose program and serves on the advisory council for the Women's Heart Center. Melinda Howdyshell. Ruth Johnson. That's Thank you. Ruth Johnson has lived in Peculiar for 18 years. She has 4 children, 2 of whom have graduated from the Ray Peck School District. She is finishing her first term on the Raymore Peculiar School Board. Ruth Johnson. Tanya Long. Tanya Long has been married to her best friend Jeremy for almost 4 years. Together they have 5 children. 3 attend Raymore Peculiar schools. In 2013, their family moved to Peculiar. Ms. Long is a stay-at-home mom. She and her husband are aspiring gardeners and farmers. They love the country and being outdoors. Their family loves camping, boating, fishing, baseball, and the beach. Tanya Long. And finally, Kim York. Kim York lives in Raymore and has lived in the district for the past 8 years. She has 2 daughters who attend Raymore Elementary. Ms. York received her bachelor in accounting from the University of Missouri at Columbia and her MBA from University of Kansas Graduate School of Business. She is a CPA with experience in auditing, budgeting, and financial analysis. Ms. York is the current school board president and has served on the board for the past 3 years. During her tenure, she earned the designation of Master Certified Board Member, a certification given to board members who have completed 45 hours of Missouri School Board Association training. Kim York. Thank you all for being here. Just as in first round, we're going to vary the order with which we ask questions. I'm going to start with Barbara Boucher and work my way to Kim York for question 1. Question 1, as time passes, Ray Peck continues to grow. What do you see for the future of the Raymore Peculiar School District? Barbara Boucher. Thank you. When you turn, you barely have to tap it and the green light comes on, and that's when your mic's on.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So you didn't hear anything I said?
Ms. Howdyshell.
Do you mind repeating the question, though? please?
Absolutely not. As time passes, Ray-Pec continues to grow. What do you see for the future of the Raymore Peculiar School District?
I think it's a very exciting time. I mean, to me, Ray-Pec is growing. I mean, that's the one thing that we've continued to see is, you know, even in the last 10 years that I've been here, I mean, the amount of growth that we've seen has been amazing. And so as we see this growth occurring, I mean, even with, you know, Cerner, you know, coming in and Honeywell, that's one thing that we have been planning for already. I mean, through the, you know, past, you know, through the board already planning, the school district planning already for these growths, and, you know, being able to look already where we're headed. I think that this is an exciting time. I think we're already being able to, you know, have set up the plans to, you know, go ahead and start moving into those, you know, as far as, you know, looking at growth potential and, you know, where we're headed. So to me, it's more about, you know, being excited about this and having the plans, because to me, it's being able to move into it. It's already happening. We can see it, you know, where it's been. So, you know, to me, kind of, you know, again, what Barbara said, I think we're headed that way. It is, you know, continue to go in the direction of having great teachers, having, you know, moving our students in that same direction, continue down that path of where we're, you know, already headed. So I think that answers hopefully the question.
Perfect, thank you, I appreciate it. Ruth?
You know, I see our future as very positive. We've been accredited with distinction now for 5 years in a row in our district, which is a very uncommon thing for districts to have, so we've done very well there. We've been able to maintain a very fiscally conservative budget, which our projections that we got in our stuff for tomorrow night's board meeting, we look to end this year with a 28 to 29% reserve in our reserves, which is very good with the economy that we've had. We've been able to maintain, with all the growth that we've had, still be able to maintain a small school feel in most of our buildings, which is very difficult to achieve. We have a whole new administration coming in with our new superintendent, and the process of him coming in has went very smoothly and transitioned very well, and everyone has been able to maintain and really didn't have a seam in there when it happened. We're rolling out our 5-year strategic plan. I think that will help guide a lot of what we do in the next 5 years just in that aspect. So I see nothing but positive for us.
Thank you. Ms. Long?
Well, what I would hope to see is a thriving district where parents, the community, and the district itself work together to offer a quality education and the opportunity for kids to learn. I want to see a district that gets more local control back, that we get to make more decisions for what's best for the kids in our community, as opposed to someone else deciding that for us. That's what I hope to see, because I think we know what's best for our kids more than the state or any other governmental agency. We know what's best for our kids, and I want to see us as a district be able to implement those things.
Thank you. Finally, Ms. York?
Yes. Well, Ray-Pec is a great school district. I think people move to our community because of our schools. And as we grow into the future, I hope we will keep our mission statement in mind, our district mission statement, which is preparing each student for a successful and meaningful life. And part of being able to do that is maintaining our financial strength and accountability that we have established over the last 3 years, even in the midst of the financial constraints that we have faced. One example of something that we will need to consider as we grow into the future is how we handle our 2-building high school. A year ago, the board commissioned a demographic study to update our projections on that, and we'll be looking at financial plans in the coming months on that. So we'll need to consider our long-range facility plans to cover that growth and continue to work to maintain our financial strength that everyone has worked so hard to maintain.
Thank you. Question 2, we're going to start with Kim York and work our way towards Barbara Boucher. Question 2. Bullying has been presented by the local television media as somewhat of an epidemic at Ray-Pec. Do you believe this is the case? And if so, how should it be addressed? Kim?
I absolutely do not believe it's an epidemic. However, I do believe that the safety of our children and bullying certainly is an issue to be concerned with. Recently, I've heard stories about bullying from concerned parents, and you know, as a parent and as a board member, I never want them to feel the way that they're feeling, you know, the individuals that have experienced this. Bullying and the safety of our children is a very important topic, and as a matter of fact, because you have board members who are listening to the community and the concerns of the community, it is on the agenda for our board meeting tomorrow night, in fact. I believe there's always room to improve how we handle things. For example, we can work at providing better reporting mechanisms. We can collect and assess data. We can increase adult supervision in our schools, and we can be sure that we're enforcing clear rules and policies. Of course, right now there are prevention and awareness programs in all of the buildings in our district, and there's a policy in place. The question that I will be asking as a board member and that I will be considering is whether those are effective and whether more can be done, and what research would indicate that we should be doing on this very important topic.
Thank you, Kim. Tanya?
Can you just repeat the question? Do you
Certainly.
believe it's an epidemic?
So question 2, bullying has been presented by the local television media as somewhat of an epidemic at Ray Peck. Do you believe this is the case? And if so, how should it be addressed?
Epidemic is a pretty big, pretty harsh word. I'm not sure. I do know that I speak with my daughter, who's a 7th grader, and she has had concerns of seeing that take place and has had kids bullying her. I'm not sure if I would consider what's going on an epidemic, because I have a pretty small world with my 3 kids, but I talk to other parents and they're very concerned about it as well. For me, what do I propose? When I look at the school board policy for bullying and disciplinary action, and I think about what I've experienced as a parent in the district, what I see missing is parental involvement. I see the principal talking to the student, but when is the parent contacted? I think that contacting the parents of the children who are being bullied and those who are being accused of bullying is the first thing that we need to do. And we need to see the role of a parent as the parent, not the school. And I think that will solve a lot. I think that will work towards solving a lot of problems that we have with bullying by involving parents in this issue, in every issue in education, but particularly in this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Ms. Johnson?
As an epidemic, no. I've got 4 children in the district, and that's been a continual question I've asked them all along is, do you feel that's an issue with you or your friends? As a board member, I stand for zero tolerance. There is no tolerance for it. It's an age-old issue, and it's always going to be there and always has, unfortunately. But as a board, I think we have always supported, encouraged our district administration to develop policies and procedures that keep it at a zero tolerance and do what we can to consistently be monitoring that to see what changes could be made to make it better and have more continuity about it.
Thank you. Ms. Howdy-Shell?
To answer the epidemic, no, I don't think it's an epidemic. Do I think it's a problem? Absolutely. Do I think our policy is complete? No, I don't. This is one thing I've done a lot of research on. I've been on the Facebook page. I've read, well, now I haven't read all the comments. It's hard to keep up, but I've read a lot of them. I've commented on it. I've also told them that I'm more than willing to talk to anybody on, that's commented on there. But to me, there are things that need to be done about it, and I know, it is on the agenda for tomorrow evening. I know that the district is working on it, and I think that's excellent. Some of the things that I think that they need to be improved on, though, to me, we need to have follow-up. What are we doing afterwards? Yes, we handle it immediately, but then what are we doing afterwards? Are we following up with those kids once, the incident happens? What are we doing afterwards? What are we doing, for turnaround time? To me, there's districts out there that are doing something, they have 2 days that, they have to have their paperwork in. And then at 10 days, they have to have it turned in. And then, there's somebody that's over that building that takes care of that. And then they report to the superintendent. So that's something that they have, that they take care of, and they know who, each child knows, they report to that individual. So they have different ways of communicating it. They have, maybe 5 different ways of communicating, on paper. They can call it in, they can do it, on the internet. They have different ways of communicating, I've been bullied, so there's that way. Also, they have a weighted system. So you have one incident, but it doesn't just equal this punishment. Is it a kid that has been, has you know, an excellent rapport with the teachers, and outside, you know, they do, you know, sports outside, and they have, you know, all these positives, you know, that gives them more of a plus. Or you have a child that, you know, has continually bullied and been in trouble, and, you know, and so they have a kind of a negative, so they have a weighted system. So you have that goes in. Then you also have parents and teachers that are in the halls. They're out there and they're actively involved, that are seeing stuff that are going on. Those are some of the things that I would love to see start getting implemented into our policy.
Thank you. Ms. Boucher?
As a classroom teacher in the Raymore Peculiar School District for 9 years, I did see that we do not have a safe and positive atmosphere for the students in our school district. And one of the reasons that I say that is because we have behaviorally challenged students who are thrust into the regular classroom for their sakes and the sake of the students in the regular classroom. We need to change that. And one of my objectives is to have a K-8 alternative school for those students, for their so that they can have optimum opportunities for education, and so that the students in the regular classroom can also. One of the common complaints that I heard going around in the community, as I have over the last how many ever months it's been, or weeks I've been campaigning, has been this issue of students who are behaviorally challenged who disrupt learning in our classrooms, and so it truly is a problem. Unlike what Ms. York said, I think we do certainly have a big problem with behavior. We have behavior problems, and I'm not sure it's an epidemic either. It depends on how you define that. I was looking at the bullying prevention paper that Jay Harris is going to present tomorrow night. There are questions like, there's a feeling of I feel safe at school. Only 65% agreed with that. I'm treated fairly at school. Only 67% agreed with that. My teachers respond to disruptive students. Only 52%. My teachers really care about me. 52%. We have room for improvement. We certainly have some issues that need attention by the board.
Thank you. Now, question 3, we're going to start with Melinda Howdy-Shell, and we're going to come around this way and end with Ruth Johnson. Question 3, what are your feelings on the need for facility expansion, particularly at the high school level? Ms. Howdy-Shell.
Well, I think that really in any of the buildings, I mean, I think that, you know, we have so much growth in, you know, the Raymore Peculiar District that that's something that we need. You know, you continually fight that also with, you know, funds. So, you know, you're always, you know, wanting to reduce your class size, but at the same time, you know, you don't have the funds to do it. So to me, it is something that you need, but, you know, you kind of have to fight it with, you know, not having the funds. I mean, you know, we have the projected plan to be able to have that second building. So, you know, that's where we have to kind of strive for and go for, is that time.
Thank you. Ms. Boucher.
Another common comment that I heard from patrons and people as I went around campaigning and talking to patrons in our district is, why are our freshmen not separated anymore? Why aren't we having our freshman center? Why are our freshmen in with our high school, with the rest of the high school? I think that would be one way to remedy the situation, is to put our freshmen back into a school by themselves like we did before. We're using our freshman center for lots of things, and none of those things are really things that couldn't be moved somewhere else or incorporated into another building or something, so that we can use our freshman center for the freshmen as we did before. I don't know why that was changed, and a lot of patrons obviously don't either. I would not be for expanding our high school facilities at this point anyway. I would be for using the facilities that we have.
Thank you. Ms. York?
Would you repeat the question one more time?
Certainly. Question 3. What are your feelings on the need for facility expansion, particularly at the high school level?
Okay, and I spoke a little bit about this earlier, but you know, the current structure that we are operating under in terms of the buildings and the 2 high school and where the freshmen are and all of that, it came about, I believe, about 5 years ago when we went through the budget reduction process, when the district was, you know, had some serious monetary issues due to the economy at the time and projections on revenue. There are many questions that need to be answered about expansion, and the district has, and the board has started down that path. One was our demographic study was about 10 years old. We needed updated demographic data in order to project out what the growth will be, because we need to know that by classroom, you know, by age group in order to project the buildings. We also retained architects to help with a long-range facility plan. That's the second piece. And the third piece that you have to answer those questions is a 5-year financial plan, so that you can look out into the future and see or at least have some ideas, maybe low, medium, and high, you know, scenarios of what your finances look like. With those 3 pieces, which will all come together roughly sometime this summer, I believe, we will be able to make informed decisions about the future of our facilities in the district.
Thank you. Ms. Long?
Really good question. I agree with Melinda in that we don't have the funds to do a whole lot apart from work with what we have, and I think working with what we have is a really good start. As Barbara said, we have an old freshman center that's not being utilized to its full potential. I also believe that there's, you know, for me, when I talk with parents, there's a concern, and I'm going to have a child going to the high school in a few years, but there's a concern for the kids having to pass through the 2 buildings, and things that they've talked about their kids have witnessed and seen and don't really care for. And for me, a question would be, why not have the faculty move from building to building rather than hundreds of students? Teachers may not like that, I don't know, but for me as a parent of young kids, I would much rather help work with teachers figuring out a way to move them from building to building as opposed to students. But I think we have things to work with, and we basically just need to do with what we have, because I haven't figured out how to grow money on a tree and I don't feel like it's right to ask people to spend more money when we receive lots of money. And we need to learn to work with, we need to continue to do a good job to work with what we have.
Thank you very much. Finally, Ms. Johnson.
Well, I've had 3 kids deal with the high school issue, so I definitely know what that is. You know, most of the kids don't mind. They like the fresh air going back and forth. Is it the best optimum solution? No. But the teachers are doing a phenomenal job with working within the system that we've got. Like they said, you know, the funds. First of all, we got to have bonding capacity. Then you got to have the money to staff it once you do build it. So there's so many factors that play into it. I think with what we've had to do, our district has done a good job of trying to work within our constraints, and the students have been successful with it.
Thank you very much. All right, on to question 4, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with Ruth Johnson and go around this way and end with Ms. Long. Question 4. Common Core standards have been introduced nationwide for benchmarking student progress. What are your impressions of this system, Ms. Johnson?
Well, first and foremost, I stand for local control. You know, I have been on our advocacy committee on MSBA, and that's the first thing I tell our legislators, no matter what the issue is. local control is what we need. We know in RAPEC, just parents, administrators, whatever, we know what we need, not somebody in Jeff City or DC. So first and foremost, I stand for local control. Ultimately, we don't have a choice in that, so we've got to work within the constraints we've got and fight for our own control.
Thank you. Ms. Howdy-Shell.
I agree completely with that. I mean, we want local control. We don't have it. I mean, in a way, and as far as standards go. I mean, we have control as far as curriculum goes, but that's where we have the control. And that's where we have to, that's what we need to use, is that control where our curriculum goes. Right now, our standards are set by Missouri. So we have they control the standards, we can control the curriculum. So I don't, do I like Common Core? No. But do we have the choice over that? No. Missouri gets to decide that. Can we all stand up and say, we don't like this and we need to fight back? Sure, we can. And we can be just like, was it Indiana that just recently, recalled that and said, sure, we can do that. But on a board level, we can't do that. So we have to stay within those confines. So, but otherwise, as far as curriculum goes, yes, we can choose that. And so that's where our control comes in.
Thank you. Ms. Boucher.
Well, the people who are concerned with Common Core would disagree with you there, because their disagreement would be that we don't have control over our curriculum, and that we can have, but I think the whole issue with Common Core curriculum points to the need for someone to be on the school board who is familiar with, who has a degree in, who is an educator, who has been in the classroom, someone who knows about curriculum and instruction, and that would be me. I don't know that there are any other board members who have education degrees or experience in the heart of the school, which is the classroom.
Thank you, Ms. Boucher. Ms. York.
Yes, I too support local control of the education of our children. Our state legislature, as has been mentioned, is charged with selecting and setting the standards for Missouri school districts. They were not involved to the degree that they should have been in that process, and it's up to our state legislature to remedy that. And many of the concerns that people have are state level issues, and I encourage people to work through their state legislators to help resolve the issues that people have. In the meantime, the Board of Education has been given the legal authority to approve curriculum, and the RAPEC School Board will be exercising that authority by reviewing proposed curriculum changes in the coming months and through this summer. The questions I will ask as a board member will focus on, as we're reviewing the curriculum, will focus on what is good for kids and what is good for preparing them for a successful and meaningful life.
Thank you, Ms. York. Finally, Ms. Long.
Well, Common Core state standards is one of the reasons that I decided to run for school board. I believe the implementation of the standards is going to further diminish local control. The issue isn't the standards themselves. We may differ on our opinions of them. Some may like them, some may not. Some may say they're not very much different than what we already have. Common Core state standards did not follow our Missouri Constitution. They are owned and copyrighted by private organizations. We didn't write our own standards like we've always done, and we can't change anything that we don't like in the standards. This is in violation of our statutes, and our MAP test, our standardized test, are now going to be replaced with the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium test. Missouri is a part of this consortium now, and it's funded by the United States Department of Education up until this year. How it's going to be funded beyond that has not been discussed. Missouri will no longer write her own tests. We'll be one voice among 24 other states. I take issue with this when my children's education is being turned over to private organizations funded by our tax dollars through the federal government with no accountability to us, the voters, or our legislature. I believe as citizens of a republic that we live in, we have the privilege of living in, we're governed by the rule of law. And when something isn't following the law, we need to stand up for it. We're citizens first, not school board members, not teachers. We're citizens first. Our job doesn't define us. We're citizens, and we need to take a stand not just as a citizen and contact our state legislators, but as a board, as citizens of our community, we need to ask our board to take a stand, because they're elected members of our community, so they do have a voice. It isn't just a state level issue. This is a community level issue where we need parents and citizens willing to take a stand, not because you hate the standards, but because Missouri no longer controls the standards of our own state. We don't control the assessments that our kids are going to be taking. And for me, I have a real big issue when somebody comes along and tries to take over with my kids' education, where I can't go to my local school board now and they can't give me answers, they can't change anything because they're not in control of it. I believe we live under the farce assumption that we have local control. We have very little local control, and this will further diminish it. And I'm very passionate about it. I love the idea of kids. Oh, I'm stopping.
Thank you, Ms. Long.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you to each of you for being here tonight. This is very important, so your answers, the time that you've taken is valuable to us. Just like we did with the city council candidates, we're going to give each of you a chance to have a 1-minute wrap-up. And I'm going to start with Tanya Long and then go around and finally finish with Ruth Johnson.
Well, I appreciate you coming tonight. I appreciate you wanting to know what I think, what I have to say. I have 3 kids in the district. I'm running because I don't like the direction I see education heading. I feel like it's becoming very top-down led, lots of mandates, lots of things that we're being required to do where we don't have a say-so in it. And I don't like that. I want to fight for local control. As you obviously may have heard in the last question, I'm very opposed to the Common Core state standards and believe that will further remove local control. I also am running because as a parent, I don't like the lack of communication that I see our school district not participating in. I don't like when I go to my school officials and I feel like I'm just getting a pat on the head, but not actually them either willing to take a stand or able to take a stand. And so I want to also fight to give parents their voice back in their kids' education. Thank you.
Kim York.
Well, first of all, thank you to the Chamber and to you, Mr. Ewert, for hosting this event tonight. Ray-Pec is a great place. We have 800 amazing teachers and staff, over 6,000 amazing students and families, and a community that gives us so much support. I'm so grateful for that. And my vision for Ray-Pec Schools is that we continue to fulfill our mission of preparing each student for a successful and meaningful life. I think our board should reflect our community and our local priorities. I believe our board should stay informed and lead and not just maintain the status quo. I believe in our school district. I believe the school district, the board, and the community are partners in the education of our children. During my 3-year term, the board has accomplished many things, including developing a 5-year strategic plan, maintaining fiscal responsibility, and continuing to be a district that is accredited with distinction. I believe in public education, and I want to do all I can to support it. It would be my privilege to continue to serve, and I would appreciate your vote on April 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. York. Ms. Boucher.
The Raymore Peculiar School Board should be a diverse group of individuals whose backgrounds allow balanced views to guide decisions and policies. My background of 28 years in the heart of the school, the classroom, enables me to look at our $60 million budget with the eyes of a teacher. And my knowledge of the priorities of parents derived from many years of directly reporting to the parents of our students will ensure compassionate and competent handling of student issues. My priority objectives would support our mission of preparing each student not only for a successful but a meaningful life. We need to have a positive and safe learning environment for all students. We should be looking at test scores for what they tell us, not what we want them to say. We should be expecting more progress in the development of our pre-kindergarten learning opportunities and facilities. Though some progress has been made to provide more learning before students enter kindergarten, the growth and development of our preschool programs are unacceptable for a district our size. There should be more sponsorship and support of meaningful activities in our middle school and high school for character building and drug abuse prevention. And thank you for having this forum. I really appreciate it. It's important to have, for us to have a voice, but it's more important also for people to know who know the candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boucher. Ms. Howdy-Shell.
I would also like to tell you thank you for coming, thank you for hosting us. And I want you to know that I'm excited for our district. I love our district. We specifically moved to Raymore. We could choose anywhere in the Kansas City area when we were looking, and we chose Raymore because of Ray-Pec. So I'm excited for what's coming with our new superintendent that we have. I bring to the district a parent's perspective. We own our own small business, so we have the balance of a parent's perspective, but I also have the balance of, owning a small business. That brings out of the box thinking. I think that we need that. I think that we need this fresh new perspective that I have. I want to bring that relationship with the community, with the parents. One thing that we were given in our packet whenever we came in to sign up, it was by the Missouri School Board Association, and it says, the school board typically must be aggressive in reaching out to the community to engage people in conversations about education. And I was like, that's what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I want to be your representative. I want to do this with you. I want to engage you guys in conversations to find out what I can do for you, how I can help you on the board. So if you elect me, which I ask for your vote, I would do that for you, to help you to be better, make our school district better, because I want to do this job to make the school district better, and that's the only reason.
Thanks, Ms. Howdy-Shell. Finally, Ms. Johnson.
Again, thank you to all of you for taking your time to come, and then for those that will watch this later on, because that's an important thing to be informed. I was challenged this week by someone that said, I'm going to vote for you, but what makes you different from everybody else, and why should I vote for you? And I put a lot of thought into it, and my thoughts are, I believe I am different in many ways. I have had my own kids in public, private, and homeschool. I feel this gives me a well-rounded view of what parents and students want, need, and expect. There is no one-size-fits-all. I will continue, as I have in the last 3 years, on focusing on keeping our control local. We know what is best for Ray-Pec, not someone in Jeff City or DC. I have and will continue to keep an open line of communication with our legislators to fight for this. Having been someone who worked in the district, this gives me another tool to use when viewing all sides of an issue. I truly believe you cannot have too much information when making a decision. I have another way I believe I'm different, is that I started becoming involved before I ever was a candidate for this position 3 years ago. I had served on several committees as a parent, and that still stands that I'm a parent first before I am anything else. And I had attended board meetings for over a year before I ever ran. I will continue to be involved and know what is going on. As a current board member, I believe that you can never have enough information, and we as a board should strive to give the community information for clarity and transparency. And lastly, I believe God has shaped me for this position. The gifts, heart, abilities, personalities, and experience that I have had enable me to bring a unique perspective and outlook to this position. A school board is not about one person getting their way. It is about 7 differently unique people coming together for the good of the community and coming to a consensus of what is best for the students at Raymore Peculiar. And I love what I do.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for being here. My hope is that each of you will take time to vote. And I want to also, I passed up thanking Tom Circo for being my timer over here. And I want to say thank you. And we're adjourned. Thank you.